Hi, I'm Taylor Olson, firefighter paramedic, and this is my engine 40.
Metro Fire, what is the address of the emergency? What's on fire?
Multiple calls reporting flames coming from the roof. LPDs arriving on scene stating fire in the stairwells as well.
Multiple callers, flames seen coming out of the unit. Household parties trapped. There's an older lady that lives there. She's not seen. Right, medium-sized, two-story multi-family. We have smoke and flame showing. Alpha side. WSM command. We're manning the offensive strategy. We do have extension to the second floor. Headed to the third. Let's go ahead and start the second alarm.
234, Tower 35, ladder 12, along engine 11, engine 22, engine 38, engine 42, medic 211, medic 21, battalion chief 3, battalion chief 5, safety 35, netcom op 3, confirmed multiple restructure fire.
So engine 40 is a 2009 Pierce Velocity. It's just like our other engines in the fleet. However, it's got a 1,500 gallon tank that helps us serve this area with minimal water supply a lot better. All right, so this is our cab here. This is basically our startup switches right here to get the truck started up. If you look up here, this is where we operate our emergency lighting right here. So anytime we go to light them up, I hit this emergency master and I get all the lights on the truck to power up. This Pierce also has a command monitor, and it kind of shows all of my gauge parameters as well. And the main thing that this shows is our seatbelt sensors to make sure that all my firefighters have their seatbelts on before we take off to go to a call, so we can respond to a call a lot safer. This is my tank shift right here. So this would be what I would push down into the shift into the pump position, and I would put it in gear if I wanted to get water out of the truck if we showed up to a fire. After that, let's see, we got our South Metro Hula Girl. I don't think any South Metro pumper is complete without our Hula Girl. We got all of our separate radios up here. Some of them we can communicate with our federal resources, and then our other radio obviously is to communicate with Metcom when we're on calls. So engine 40 is an ALS engine, so an example of kind of the advanced capabilities that engine 40 has being ALS. Out here, our medic units are a little bit farther away, so we want to have the capability of a paramedic on scene a little quicker. Paramedic on scene, we can hook up to a 12 lead EKG and take a picture of someone's heart and be able to interpret kind of what someone's heart's doing. If they do have a certain rhythm that we want to change, a paramedic can change that immediately. We also have the ability to give medications immediately on scene, as well as some more advanced airway procedures that we can do on a call prior to the medic unit getting there, which means that we carry a few other pieces of medical equipment and supplies to respond to ALS calls. This is one of our ALS compartments, so this is kind of our more advanced medical kit right here. This is our C-collar bag, and we also carry our oxygen bag right here. So this half of the engine's gonna grab this equipment when we go to a call, or to a EMS call. Moving back here, so we also carry a few medications in the back here as well that a paramedic that would give on a call. So this rig does have a Husky 12 CAFS. So CAFS is a compressed air foam system, so we can inject compressed air foam into our tack lines. If we were to use that, some examples would be a wildland fire where we wanted to inject and put CAFS in. It makes our water more effective. Out here, if we don't have a large water supply, we want to make our water go farther, so CAFS would be a great additive if we were to fight fire like that. So this actual pump is rated to 1278 GPM a minute is what we can pump out of this. Our tank on here is 1,500 gallons. So initially when we get to a fire, we have a lot of water to kind of get working. That extra water is going to help us get a handle on the fire while our other units are coming in to supply us. Out here where there's limited hydrants, we're going to really depend on tender operations. We do have an additional tender at the station to help us out. So when we actually use this engine with our tender, we show up with about 4,500 gallons of water to a fire. We're going to go off of this tank water initially, but that tender is going to help us out. So out here, we may not have hydrants, but we have plenty of water to at least get things started, while our stations to the north and south can kind of show up and get a larger water supply running for us. So the crosslays we have on this engine, so a crosslay is a pre-connected hose that's ready to go. We call it an attack line as well. So we have 2 3/4 lines on this rig, and we also have a 2.5. So if like our standard residential fire that we go interior on, a lot of times we're going to pull this 1 3/4 line. We're going to go interior on it, and that's kind of our typical interior attack. If we show up to a fire and we're going to do what we call a transitional attack, it might be an option for this 2.5 right here, a transitional attack. We're going to pull this 2.5, and we are going to kind of hit the fire from the yard, take a little bit of energy out of the fire, and then immediately we're going to pull an 1 3/4. We're going to go interior, and we're going to kind of finish that fire off with that 1 3/4. These hose lines right here flow about 170 GPM per minute. These 1 3/4 crosslays. The 2.5 flows much more, 325. If you were to think about that in regular terms and to relate what these hoses flow, so this 2.5 tack line right here, it flows about 1 5-gallon bucket of water a second on the fire. So we can drain our tank pretty quick with a 2.5, but we still have 1,500 gallons. We get a lot of work done, a lot of fire put out with that 2.5. We get that in service. So every engine has a set of wheel chocks, and actually every truck tender as well. Anything big like this is going to have a set of wheel chocks. It's an extra safety feature. And when the truck is in pump, we like to have that safety feature in here just in case it comes out of pump. Or if we park the truck and the brakes fail, if we have some sort of failure on the brakes, these chocks are going to hold the truck into place. So this compartment right here, this is what we call our engineer compartment. So here we have a couple extra nozzles, Ys, any adapter for the hose that we're going to make connections to. A couple extra spanner wrenches. Right here is a remote for our light tower. So if we're on a fire scene at night, we might show up and it might be bright because it's on fire, but once we put the fire out, we need a lot of light to work, so we can raise this tower. This tower is really bright, really helps out, and it's really useful. Down here, these are 33-foot sections of supply hose, so a lot of times we get lucky if we're closer to a hydrant, or if we're going to nurse off another tender truck, we can set these small supply lines without having to pull a larger section of 5-inch off of our supply. So we have 2 of those and a 2.5. So 2 5-inch sections and a 2.5. This is our regular like toolbox. So every engine, a truck's going to have a set of tools as well. So these are just our typical hand tools, mechanic tools, in case we want to do any quick maintenance on a call or fix anything kind of small really quick. All right, so this up here is our hard suction. So this is for if we decide we're going to set it for a drafting operation, or we're actually going to suck water into our rig versus have a hydrant feed water into our rig. That needs to be a hard piece of hose that won't collapse, so we can pull a vacuum and get water up to our rig. Compartment overview. So this compartment just houses our rope bag. So with engine 40 being located where it is, we could actually start to set up a quick little low angle rescue, kind of being by the train tracks or where these hills are. Some of these cars come off the road, and so we would use a rope bag for kind of a low angle rescue or to get that started. Extra wildland gear. So this is our engineer's wildland gear. He likes to keep it here because with all our gear, the cab can get a little crowded, so that's some extra space where my engineer puts his gear. Extra little cooler of water in case we're on an extended scene. We actually have a little extra water just in case. Our safeties, PIO, chiefs, they carry extra water as well, but we like to be prepared just in case here. I'll bring this bag down too. So this right here, I'll just drop a few things out. This is our high-rise bag, so this has our necessary connections. If we do get pulled into the city area where there are high-rises and we decide to use a standpipe for our water supply, this bag right here is going to have everything we're going to need to make a connection to the standpipe and start a standpipe attack on a high-rise fire. This is just a utility rope bag in case we need to hoist tools up to an elevated position. A lot of times, we can hoist a hose line up to a second floor if we got to do some overhaul. So we just use this rope bag to assist us with that ice melt. So a lot of times in the wintertime, especially around here, if we're getting out on the road, on the highway, or if we're getting out on a medical call, the chances of us slipping into traffic is pretty high. So sometimes we just take this and throw it down. Kind of helps us out get some traction. It's an easy insurance policy to make sure we don't slip into traffic when it's super cold out and icy. So these right here, you call these our torpedo tubes. So these are just tubes that we house, torpedoes, I'm just kidding. We house our air tanks. So these are just for spare tanks. So if we have tanks already set up on our SCBA bottles, but if we have to come out and recycle, refill or change out our tanks, we have them right here. So extra tanks for that. So we're capable of a couple work cycles because we have extra breathing air. And these also come into play too. We do have airbags on this rig, so if we do deplete a bottle for our airbags, we can also swap these out. So this port here, this is just an extra electric port, so we do have a generator on this truck that we can run, and it powers a box fan, so if we need to do ventilation, this will power the fan, the electric fan for that, as well as accessory lights. So sometimes you'll see us stretch out some lights to the front door to kind of light up the front door while our crews are inside doing an interior tack, and that kind of just lights up the front door. That way it kind of gives you kind of a point of reference if you can see that lighted door. So that's what we use this plug for, is just to put lights out, get as many lights on the scene as we can. So Station 40's district is surrounded by a lot of wildland interface. So this cabinet is specifically designed for this. So these bags right here are actually just our web gear that we throw on when we go to wildland fire. We can either go on this as an attack engine, or we do have a Type 3 wildland engine and a tender as well to supply that. So this is where that gear starts off, and depending on if we use it on this truck or the other one, but it's all stored here for all the riding positions at this station. These are our bladder packs, so we can fill these up. This is mainly for kind of some mop-up scenarios and stuff where we don't need a whole lot of fire to put out a lot of hot spots. So we'd hook this hose up, throw it on our back, and we would actually just pull this back, and we would just squirt water out. Kind of like a really cool, expensive super soaker like we had when we were kids. Lastly, this is our fuel door. We use this door quite a bit. Our engine weighs about 67,000 pounds. So it definitely uses a lot of fuel. So we use this door quite a bit. All right. Moving back, the last compartment on the left side here. So this is our, it's kind of everything compartment. So this is our blitz fire. So this is another ground monitor that we'll use to actually do a transitional attack, or if we decide to go defensive on a fire, this is set up to do so. So this is actually specifically set up so we have this hose roll specifically in here. I can get this out, and I can throw this hose out. I have both couplings. I can hook this coupling up to my blitz fire really quick, hook it up to my engineer's panel, and I can stretch this out really quick and get water on the fire with something that flows a lot of gallons. All right, so if you sit on this side of the engine, this is what you're grabbing to make a hydrant connection. So I'm gonna grab this whole entire bag. A lot of the pieces in this bag are adapters in case we run into a different district or we encounter a different pipe thread. So this is our bag of extension cords and adapters as well. So we do have pigtails in case we need to adapt a 15 amp to a 20 amp or whatever. Sometimes we run into that. So we have adapters for that as well, and we usually use that to string out to run our electric fan. We have this fan on here in case once the fire's out. Next thing we want to worry about is smoke. There's a lot of smoke damage that happens in fires, so we want to make sure that we have a really powerful fan to positively ventilate structure after we get the fire out. Back up here, we have our fan jack, so in case we need to hang a fan on a doorway and kind of have a fan a little higher in a doorway to push air into a structure. With this fan jack, you just crank it on, it clamps onto a doorway, and you hang a fan from there. We can also use that if we want to get into a door and we don't really want to force it or damage the door frame too much. We can use this to kind of spread the door frame a little bit and push the door in. So continuing on here, so this is our CO2 extinguisher, our dry chem. That's kind of that'll kind of put out everything. Back behind here as well, we have some salvage tarps and some runners. So again, after the fire's out, after we're done doing our thing, we don't want to do any more damage than that's been done. So we'll put some salvage tarps and runners down. That way we're not tracking up somebody's first floor of their house when their second floor is what caught on fire. So that's all salvage right there and damage control. So this is an airbag that we use. So This would be used for lifting. So we would put this under an object. Again, that airbag won't pump up quite enough to lift the engine, but just to show, so we would put that underneath an object we want to lift. We'd hook it up to an airline, and then we'd go from there. And we'll show you the rest of the airbags. On the other side, this is just one. This is just a pad. This is a pad we can put the airbag on if we have an unstable ground, or if the ground has some areas that might puncture the bag. We can put that on and lift from there. Continue on the back side. So we got our road cones for our accident scenes. We got to close off scenes. Our cones are accessible immediately. That way, if we go down to our 2-lane highway, which is Highway 85 right here, we can shut it down or kind of stay safe. So this is where our cones live. So hit down here, that's our electrical cord reel. So if we don't want to plug into, we have a pre-hooked up cord reel to our generator on this engine. So this is our discharge right here. So this is hooked up to a quick line. If we have a wildland fire, we can actually start a progressive hose lay off of this wire right here. So up here we have our supply hose. So this is our 2.5-inch supply, and this is our 5-inch supply. We have an assortment of wildland tools and a backboard up here. On top of here as well, we have progressive wildland packs, and we climb up this way to get to our deck gun if we're going to do a defensive operation or just get the deck gun in service. All right, so in this compartment here, this is our extrication compartment. Then we also have the rest of our airbags in this compartment as well. So District 40, there's a lot of 2-lane highways out here, so we do get some pretty bad wrecks out here. So with us being away from our next to rig is a little farther out than what you would see in the city. We do have an assortment of extrication tools on this engine. So these are the Hamatros extrication tools. So we have cutters and we have some spreaders as well. So we could run the cutters and spreaders together. We don't have to switch lines, so we have 2 ports for them. So we can run those tools. This is our generator for it. So this is a hydraulic generator. So gas powered. This is a tarp we'll throw down really quick to throw our extrication equipment on if we have time for it. We throw this down, that way we just make sure that we don't get any dirt or grime into our tools. We take that little extra time to make sure that our tools are going to work properly on a scene and not give us any trouble or malfunction. This bottle right here specifically, we put this right here to run our airbags. So our airbag controls are right here. This is basically how we control our airbags right here. If we want to power up, power down. So for instance, this airbag specifically, this airbag can lift about 20 tons. So when you hook it up, we can do a little lift. These are really useful if we do have to lift something off somebody really quick. All right, so moving on to this is our saw compartment here. So we do carry a complement. So we carry K12 saw, and we also carry a chainsaw as well for ventilation purposes, or if we do need to get into a structure, we can cut garage doors with these or whatever you would need a saw for. So typically, in most cases, engines don't carry. You don't see a whole lot of engines with saws on them, but since we are out here a little farther away from the city and a truck might be a little farther away, we do carry saws just in case. So we have our big 36 volt DeWalt Sawzall. This actually is really good at getting through sheet metal, and it really helps us out with extrication. So this is a very useful tool. You get a Home Depot, but it's still pretty useful for us. So this saw, in case our battery fails us, we just have a backup corded saw. That's why we have this on the rig. Saws, we carry extra fuel right here. So this is a pre-mixed 2-cycle. So these 2 saws are actually 2-stroke versus 4-stroke. And then we carry extra bar oil for our saw. So this is our hydraulic fuel for our light tower. So if we got to raise our light tower, it's used with hydraulics, as well as our cab tilt. So if we tilt our cab, there's 2 hydraulic rams that push our cab forward so we can access our engine. Right here we have some extra torpedo tubes. Carry our bottles here, so these up. These are our straps. So This is just an extra SCBA strap, so if we wanted to carry, if we were going a long distance with extra bottles like a high rise, we would just loop these around the bottle here, and we would throw this around our shoulder, and we'd be able to carry 2 extra bottles like that around our shoulder. This is our stabilization compartment. So we have our step chocks here, so we would put that, basically push that underneath the vehicle to kind of give it some support as well. If we need additional support, if there's a car that's on its roof, or we're trying to stabilize anything that's kind of higher off the ground, we're going to use these Rescue 42s to stabilize. So our chains are up here and our straps are up here for it. So we carry all our strapping. Our straps are ready to go there. And these are the chains we rig them with as well. This is all of our hand tools and all our tools we bring in if we need. So this is our set of our irons here. So this is kind of the main thing that comes out. So we're going to pull that. We're going to pull this tool out. If we go to a fire and the front door is locked, we can't get access in. Basically, someone's going to use these tools and force their way in, get the front door open, or whatever access point we need to get the hose line in. If we do need to get into a car, someone locks your keys in the car, there's a baby locked in the car, this is our lockout kit is what we call it. So we'd stuff this in the door, and then we'd inflate that, spread the door a little bit. We'd take some of these rods right here, and we'd reach in there and unlock a vehicle. So engines have to have ladders on them as well, just in case we show up to a fire and we have to do a quick rescue. So we have a 20-foot 2-section ladder up there on our ladder rack, and we also have a roof ladder on top of that. That's a single section straight stick ladder. As well, we have a assortment of pike poles, and we have a trash hook as well. So these pike poles here, these are fiberglass pike poles. In case we're reaching up to something we're worried about, an electrical issue, we're going to use this. We also have a trash hook, or it's called a Colorado hook. So it's a trash hook on one end, and it's a regular hook on the other. So this is our pump panel on the other side here, so there's no controls, but we do have intakes and discharges. So these right here, these are just our drains. So if we were going to drain down a line, we'd pull this drain here if we couldn't drain it from the nozzle, and that would start draining that down here. So this is our 5-inch intake, and this is our 2.5 intake as well. So on any fire truck, if you look at it, the intakes are always low, not always, usually always on the lower end. This is the dividing point, and these are our discharges right here. So if I wanted to pull one of these cross lays here, so my 2.5 and my other 1 3/4 come off on this side here. So we just have this grab bar. I'm gonna reach up, and I can grab these loops right here. So if I need to get the ladders off the truck, I don't have to climb all the way up there and get the ladders down somehow. This rack actually comes down. So if I turn the ladder rack on, and over the ladder rack. All right, so our racks are held on by these clips here. So if I needed to get a hold of this ladder really quick, I'm going to come over here. Well, away I can go. So these are our locks, so in case our hydraulics fail, as soon as I shut this down, this clamp's going to go down and make sure we're not going down the road. We're pulling out of the station with the ladder rack falling down. Okay, so inside the cab here, we have, to start off, so this is where our packs sit. And if we need to get a hold of our packs, we need to get them out. They come straight out, they kind of lock in like that. Kind of like ejection seats. You just got to pull on them and you come out pretty quick. So these are headsets that we use when we're going to a call and we have the siren going and we have vital information we need to communicate back to each other. It's nice to have these headsets on. We don't have a lot of distractions and we can communicate kind of what the plan is here. This right here, these bags right here are our engine's ballistic protection bags. So if we do go to an active shooter situation or any standby where there's weapons involved, we do put these vests on, these plate carriers, and we also have ballistic helmets in here. Up here, this is our ice rescue suit. So we are right by Chatfield Reservoir. So if we do have any ice calls or anything like that, we'll be suiting up on the way to the call, and we can go ahead and deploy with this ice suit right away. We also have a hockey helmet in here with face protection because sometimes we do get dogs on the ice and dogs are a little freaked out, so this keeps us from getting bit in the face. So that's why you'll see us with these hockey cages on, just to kind of protect us a little bit more, just in case an animal's freaked out and goes to bite us. Moving on here, so we do have an additional thermal imaging camera for the firefighters in the back. So the officer's going to have a camera, and then one of us back here is going to have a camera as well, just to get a little bit extra capability to kind of see and navigate inside of a environment where there's a lot of smoke and limited visibility. Our gas monitor is down here as well, so we do respond to gas calls with this engine. So we need to have a way to monitor the interior of a house or any structure that we go to. So this is our tough pad. It's used for patient care reports and pre-plans. We wanted to pull up a pre-plan on this device.
Paramedic 1-5. Destination please, Swedish. Okay, going to Swedish now.
Well, lastly here, this is our other medical compartment on this side. This is our main kit, so we call that our orange kit, if you can guess why. But so this is our orange kit. This is our main kit that goes into the scene with us, and we also have our Life Pack 15 right here as well. So this is what we would use to do a cardiac tracing, take a picture of someone's heart, and we can also monitor breathing status on patients as well. All right, so this side, this is where the lieutenant sits. He's got his MBT, so that's how he maps us to the call right here. So while we're going to a call, you'll see him kind of in the computer. He's looking at call notes to get what the nature of the call is and mapping us to the call. His pack is secured in his seat. All of his gear rides up here with him. Take a look at that. On to the front of the rig. So this is our 5-inch intake. This actually gets used quite a bit based on kind of our areas out here. If we do decide to do a drafting operation, it's better to use the side intakes a little bit for drafting. However, we don't have the space to get other rigs around, so you're going to see us pulling up, and we're going to use this front intake a lot for drafting. So that's our main kind of intake, I would say, in this district. And here in our bumper, we have another compartment here, and that is just a quick little trash line. So that's 100 feet of hose line. So we call it our trash line. We can use it for a quick attack on a car fire, or use it for what it's named after. So if we go at a dumpster fire or anything where we're just going to pull a little bit of hose to take care of a little dumpster fire, we'll use this. So this is our spotlight up here where you're just looking at, so we can control it with this knob right here to adjust our elevation and our side to side. The reason why this comes in useful, a lot of times we go on wrecks on the side of the road, and as we're pulling up, we want to verify that there's nothing else kind of off the side of the road, so we do a quick sweep with our spotlights. so with this engine, we do drafting operations. So this is our tender. We went ahead and dumped our tender into a porta pond, or a porta tank, is what we call it. Now with us being able to do that, this tender can go fill up with water again, get more water, come back and dump again. So this is just an extra tank in the mix. What we have right here is a hard suction hose. So we are gonna have to figure out how to get this water into the pump. This isn't a positive water source, so we're gonna have to suck this up like a straw to get our pump primed and ready to go.